Good morning. My name is Susan Letizia, and I live at Westminster Woods on Julington Creek. And I'm so glad that I have this chance to read a book to you. The name of the book is Chameleons Are Cool, and it's by Martin Jenkins with Sue Shields did the illustrations. And I want to read you a little bit of an introduction before I start the story. Chameleons are lizards, and lizards are reptiles, like snakes and crocodiles and tortoises. There are about 4,000 kinds of lizards altogether, including around 120 different chameleons. Just over half of all the types of chameleons come from Madagascar, a big island off the east coast of Africa. Most of the others live in mainland Africa. So now we start. Chameleons are cool. And there's that first page. Some lizards eat bananas. Chameleons don't. Some lizards walk upside down on the ceiling. Chameleons can't. There's even a lizard that glides from tree to tree. A chameleon certainly wouldn't do that. And now there's some little notes that I'm going to read. Geckos' toes are sticky like Velcro. That's why they walk on the ceiling. The flying lizard glides on wing-like flaps of skin. And here's iguanas don't just eat bananas. They love all sorts of fruit. But of all the different kinds of lizards, I still think chameleons are the best. Chameleons are cool. And there he is with a chameleon on his ice cream sundae. It's not that they're all that big. The biggest is only about the size of a small cat. It's called Australot's chameleon, and it lives in Madagascar. Whatever their size, chameleons usually get sick and die if kept as pets. They're much better off left in the wild. They can be really, really small though. The smallest one could balance happily on your little finger. It's called the dwarf Brocasia, and it lives in Madagascar too. So there's the cat and a kitten and the chameleon, and there's the little tiny one. And I suppose you wouldn't exactly call many of them beautiful. Their skin is wrinkly and bumpy, and they got big, bulgy eyes, while lots of them have the most ridiculous noses. And look at those big, funny noses. I think it's their noses I like best. Their mouths are pretty odd too. They turn down at the corners, which is why chameleons always look grumpy. And the little boy also has a grumpy expression. Actually, they don't just look grumpy. They are grumpy. So if two chameleons bump into each other, things can get pretty lively. There's lots of puffing and hissing, and sometimes there's a real fight. A chameleon would fight only with the same kind of chameleon as itself. And that's when chameleons do what they're most famous for. They change color. Lots of people think chameleons change color to match their surroundings. They don't. They change color when they're angry, or when they're too cold or too hot, or when they're sick. And there are some sorts of chameleons that hardly change color at all. So I'm going to hold it for a minute so you can look at each one and their separate colors. And then the two on the bottom, I guess, they don't change much at all. As a rule, though, chameleons don't bump into one another all that often. I suppose it wouldn't be fair to call them lazy, but they certainly don't move any more than they have to. And when they do, it's almost always incredibly slow. Sometimes they stop completely in mid-step, as if they've forgotten what they're supposed to be doing. But if you look closely, you'll see that they're actually